I wanted just to comment on the newest false flag in Florida, this shooting, where it appears 17 kids actually were shot, from what I can tell. And there's a lot of, obviously, people up in a storm online repudiating the official narrative and what the mainstream's trying to make the people out to be for investigating this obvious false flag, Sandy Hook 2.0, if you will. And I'm just so honored right now and proud of my American brothers and sisters and all the people of the world for waking up to the deception that is obvious at this point from this government, from this establishment, and hopefully will understand that of the shadow government behind this pawn sacrifice government of these politicians and these so-called leaders that they put out in the open, that there's actually people pulling the strings behind them, and I'm sure a lot of people understand that by now. So, yeah, it appears as if there was no injured or wounded in this shooting, and which is very, very peculiar for any sort of mass shooting. It indicates that there was high precision, and it was like an op, because there was no wounded. It's just very unlikely that would ever happen. Usually there's more wounded than killed in any shooting, including other false flags. So this in particular was 100% death ratio. It might be because they're children, that there was some mercy on some level from the shooter or shooters, multiple, of which there was a girl who was interviewed who said that there was she heard two shooters. There was another shooter, and this kid who they've this guy might be a patsy for all we know, but the security guard was actually called off that day by the sheriff, the local sheriff, who's apparently known as a big dirtbag. So this school particularly, I've learned, the principal is very, very, she's been protesting draining of the swamps and these environmental issues, and the kids in the school apparently were quite anti-establishment, or quite aware of a lot of the lies and stuff. It's just one of these situations where the children were actually sacrificed or targeted by this establishment, particularly for two reasons: because of their activism and the principal's activism, and then for two, because of obviously the so-called gun control narrative, which a lot of people will assume they literally are going to take away everybody's guns, but I don't think that's the case. I think with America, they have to deceive the public because of this facade of freedom here. They can't force a lot of things. They have to use propaganda and whatnot to try to influence the public and the younger generations to basically not ever buy guns or hand over their guns. For the younger generation, there's going to be fewer and fewer people that actually have guns. I'm personally against firearms in general, like the invention of firearms, but I know that if only the government has them, if they're not talking about disarming the government disarming itself, and police not having guns, and destroying these weapons that they have, if they're not actually speaking that narrative, then what they're talking about is just civilians giving up their guns, which the inconsistency of it is profound, because not too long ago we were flooded with this the whole narrative of police going around shooting people, innocent people, and unarmed people, even executing people, even being caught on camera killing people, and still going on, obviously police brutality. So now we're being told that only they should have the guns. So I think that the rulers have underestimated the people, as what usually happens, and I think their empire is crumbling, and I think that they're just trying to shut us down at this point. They have a built-up Israeli state, and they have the Saudi Arabia fully in their pocket, and its expanding empire there. So between that and then also the UN, America, the only thing they need from us is the military, really. So I think that this is like trying to shut us down. We have a spirit that they just can't fold, And then we have, the people have guns, they have firearms, and this generation, at least, of adults are not just going to give up their guns, and they know that. So they're aiming towards the youth and getting kids involved, getting younger people involved. David Hogg, he looks like to me he's actually in his mid-20s or something. He doesn't look like a high schooler to me. And a lot of people have taken note of this, and both his parents apparently were in the FBI. And this guy has been caught rehearsing his lines. This guy seems to be strange, and just throws up a lot of red flags, the way he's acting and the way they're covering him in the mainstream. A lot of people are just rightfully so putting everything in question. So I'm very proud of people. I'm very proud of the consciousness of people and the awareness going on right now. And I think that now is a time that we can actually maybe start to lean towards a true new structure of economy and a state. Of course, I'm opposed to government and ideologically, but a phasing over stage would be necessary, I believe, from this point, so that eventually maybe there is no government. But I think that the best option right now, the best thing that the people can do, and I'm going to be promoting it, so much, is get behind the Green Party. If you haven't checked out their platform, the Green Party, I think, is the best way that we can, if we were to support these people, these are people with our best interests really in mind. People who put the environment, who put ecology above economy, and then therefore the economy is naturally going to actually, you have to do that for the economy to even have a sustainable economy, because ecology is where, to take care of the environment, where you have the sustainable resources and you have everything you need for a flourishing culture. So not a progressive culture, a flourishing culture, and there's a difference. We've been fed a lot of progressive politics. And progression, when you're talking about progression of modernism, this is the problem. This neoliberal progression is the problem, and progression necessarily means colonialism. So the way they speak of it, because they're talking about an expanding economy. I'm not talking about expanding economy. I'm talking about let's get to the root, and let's stop centering our lives around money and around climbing this pyramidal structure that the Fed has put out there, and it is one big pyramid scheme. And the Green Party, Jill Stein, addresses all these things, and I really, really am 100% behind this party. I'm also wanting to endorse, or wanting to just put it out there and promote once again Ken O'Keefe and the World Citizen Solutions. These things can be paired in tandem together, and it doesn't have to be as if you got to support one or the other. World Citizen Solutions is more of a broad spectrum ideal, and then the Green Party is more of an American, like, we can get behind this for the American economy. So I wanted to put those out there, and then of course the American Monetary Institute I want to go ahead and promote. I hope everybody understands that if we get behind these things and we really rally around change in this way, and stop this bipartisanship bullshit, identity politics and bipartisanship and everything they want us to argue about and point the finger at one another, and just unite around common ideals that actually are universal, that would help all of us and help all life, that we can really accomplish something great. I dream of a world one day we don't have firearms, and that we don't one day, where maybe a long time from now, where we don't have firearms because we don't need them anymore for anything, because right now they're kind of like, it's good to be able to protect yourself from these government people who have the firearms, but if we're in a position of influence, we can phase out, I believe, some of these deadly technologies that only serve to kill and mortally wound animals and people. And I think that there's other methods of self-defense that actually are non-lethal, that actually are much better and much more compassionate and less cruel. Pepper spray. You got, even if you had to use a knife or a sword against a foe, at least you're understanding the power of the weapon, and people can really empathize with having to every once in a while have to put somebody down, or a rabid person or a rabid animal, and it being a very rare ordeal of self-defense, and not something that's standard or something that ever is a common occurrence like we see now with these wars, these endless wars for Israel and the Greater Israel Project and Saudi Arabia and all these people who don't have our best interest in mind, and they're led by the same cabal, this Judaic cabal of people who lead the Freemasons as well. And if you are listening and you are a low-level Mason, understand that you're being used as well. And, you're welcome to join us as long as you got to denounce that secret society bullshit. You've been sucked into it, and these people don't have your best interest in mind, and you're serving the enemy. So as much as they tell you you're doing something better, you're doing charity and blah, 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 and it's just a little, it's like a fraternity, all this stuff. Understand that you're being used. You're front men for something that's much more corrupt than you can understand, or that you do understand at this point. Hopefully you're starting to understand. So I'm glad that you're tuning into this channel if you are listening, and I'll make other videos. I'll be making other videos pretty soon, and I just wanted to put something out there about this whole ordeal and what my thoughts were on it. So, yeah, I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't, subscribe. And then like the video and comment if you want. See ya.